Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. I'm down in Palm Coast, Florida. Nice sunny day down here. I've been writing all day. In fact, something you may not know, you stay a year ahead in the book business. So I've just finished Cotton Malone's next adventure, which will come out in 2014. And I just sent it off back to my editor, about an hour ago. So you're here on a day when I've actually finished a novel. But today we're here to talk about this year's book, The King's Deception. It's Cotton Malone's eighth adventure, a great story in London dealing with his son Gary, and something very interesting from Tudor history with Elizabeth I. So if you're ready to go, fire away, and let's have your first question. Send them on to my way, and we'll get started. A reader asked, did you travel to England to research the book? Yes, there were two trips to England with this book. The first was where we actually came across the idea of it in a little village north of London. Elizabeth and I were up there. We were taking a tour of the cathedral there, and the lady was taking us around, told me about a legend that happened in the village of Bisley, about an hour away. And it was for many centuries, on a day certain, they would take a young boy, dress him up in female Elizabethan costume, and parade him through the streets. And that was a very odd thing to do, and it got me thinking, and that's where the whole idea of the novel began. And I did a lot of research during that trip, and we went back on a second trip. So all of the things that Cotton does in that book and all the places he goes, Elizabeth and I explored too. Just whenever you're ready, just send them on. Here comes something, King's Deception. How long did it take you to write it? Do you find it easier to write now than when you first started? Now, no, the answer is. I was told once by the great writer David Morrell that the longer you write, the harder it gets. And he's actually correct. I didn't believe him at the time, but now I actually do. I've written 17 novels, 12 of which have been, well, now 18, I'm sorry, 18 novels, 12 of which have been published. One will be published next year. And each year they get it progressively a little harder to do. And the reason for that, I've discovered, is simple. Your imagination bank. Yeah, that when you first start out writing, your imagination bank is just chocked full of stuff. You've been stuffing stuff in there for years and years and years, and you've got more than you can possibly use. But after about, I've been writing now 23 years. After 23 years, you begin to make a lot of withdrawals, and your withdrawals outpace your deposits. And so it does get a little harder every year. Thankfully, I've got ideas for the next 4 books, so I'm okay for the next 4 years. And I don't think it'll ever become impossible, but it certainly does become a little more difficult. Now, the writing of this book takes, like all of them, 12 months of actual writing, 18 months from the time I start the idea to the time I finish, with 6 months of preliminary research before I get started. So the process is a total of an 18-month process, but I need every day of those 12 months to write the novel. Yes, I use, the reader asked, do I use photography to assist in descriptions of the writing? And yes, I do. I take a lot of pictures. On both of those research trips, I probably took 400 or 500 pictures. I bring them back home with me, and I use them all the time. You just can't remember every detail. There's no way. So pictures are the best way to do it. When I wrote the scenes that take place at Jesus College at Oxford, I didn't get a chance to go into the college when I was there. It was closed. So I had to do it all from pictures. And we were in England 2 weeks ago for the release of The King's Deception, and I got to go into Jesus College. And it was pretty cool to see that I got most of it right. I got about 99% of it dead on from the pictures. So pictures can be very valuable, and I make great use of them, and I have for many years. Do I have a favorite period in history, one that really inspires me? No, not really. I used to think that the medieval time was my favorite. But I've come to discover now that I really like all periods of history. I did ancient times with Alexandria Link and the Venetian betrayal. I've done Asia with a little bit of Venetian betrayal, but a lot with the Emperor's Tomb. I've done Russia with the Romanov prophecy. I've done all over. I've done American history with the Jefferson Key. All of them seem to be interesting me, so there's not one that really stands out anymore. In one of Raymond Corey's books, Cotton is mentioned in there. Yes, it is, and we did that on purpose. It was something that Raymond wanted to see if his readers perhaps read Cotton books, and then I mentioned his character in one of my novels to see if there was crossover there too. Jim Rollins has mentioned my character. I've mentioned Jim's. Brad Thor has done the same, and we've done the same with Brad. It was a little experiment we did to see if readers were paying attention and also to see if they cross over. We discovered that there was a massive amount of crossover. A joint book venture between me and Raymond, I don't know if that's going to be possible to do. It's just he's with another house, I'm with my house. It would be very difficult to do something like that. So I don't think we would see that now. Have I seen the Tudors? Of course. I watched all 34 episodes. They were great. Watched them in order. I've got the DVDs and sat down and watched them one after the other. It's really, really good. No, it is not historically accurate, but it is a fictional representation of that time. I love historical fiction. It was close enough to be entertaining. They did a super job with it, and I really, really enjoyed it. Now, in my novel, I stick a little tighter to history, a little tighter to the way things were, just tripping it up just a tad. And of course, that writer's note is in the back to tell you where I tripped up and where I didn't. But if you want to get a good show with the Tudors is certainly a great show to watch. Reader says he loved the Jefferson Key. Does the new book follow the same sort of fast-moving plot, multiple character perspectives? Yes, it does. I like to use around 3 to 5 points of view. I like to bounce around between those 3 to 5 points of view. I like to keep them a little tighter, a little closer together, as started in Jefferson Key, where the characters are more interacting with each other and not scattered over the globe like I had some in the earlier books. And I like my plot to be short chapters, quick scenes, bouncing back and forth between the point of views to keep you moving forward so that you'll keep reading the book. Because the object of the game is for me to keep your eyes moving down the page. Do I have plans to write another book with Tom Sagan from the Columbus Affair? One day, maybe. I liked Tom. I enjoyed creating him. He was a lot of fun. He was a disgraced newspaper reporter who gets caught up in this great mystery with Christopher Columbus and the fact that Columbus may well have been Jewish. I enjoyed the story. I fleshed him out pretty solid. So yes, I would think that one day we'll come back and revisit Tom Sagan again. Yeah, here's a reader who was watching, a viewer was watching Morning Joe and Caddy's reaction. She was a little defensive about Queen Elizabeth perhaps being a man. Did the Brits have that reaction to the theory? Not really at all. We were over there and we did many events, and people were fascinated by the idea that there might have been something amiss with Queen Elizabeth. They're very intrigued by that possibility, because I'm telling you what, it's not completely beyond the realm of possibility. In fact, it's got a lot of merit to it, and they were very interested in it. Now, Morning Joe, of course, you want a little conflict, you want a little action, you want a little entertainment, and that's what that was about, and it was a lot of fun. But I will say afterwards that Katie came up to me and we had a talk about it, and she took the book home with her, and she said she intends to read it and intends to let me know what she thinks. She says that she was actually very intrigued by the possibility. How do you think things would change in England if Elizabeth was a man? Well, as far as the monarchy goes, zero. There's no connection between the Windsors, who currently serve as the ruling family of England, and the Tudors. There are many royal families between there, absolutely no connection, would have no effect whatsoever. But it would change everything in Northern Ireland. Elizabeth is the one who seized all the land from the Catholics in Northern Ireland and gave it to the Protestants. All of the land titles in Northern Ireland to Protestant landholders, which are thousands and thousands, trace their origin to Elizabeth. If she's a fraud, they're a fraud. And this is the so what of the king's deception. This is what matters. And it's the very first so what I've ever had that has absolute, direct, and immediate implications in the real world. This was so explosive that my British publisher asked me to tone down the Northern Ireland aspects of the story for fear of inciting someone or getting someone riled up about this. So I actually had to tone it down. Northern Ireland is an extremely sensitive subject over there. It's not one that you talk about, it's not one that you stress on, and it's certainly not one that you aggravate. So it's very interesting how this little historical anomaly from 400 years ago, if it were true, could literally explode in the modern world. Where do I see Cotton going in the future? What's his next adventure? Well, he's going to come back home for a domestic adventure. I can't tell you what it's about, but I can tell you the title. It's called The Lincoln Myth, and it will deal with something with Abraham Lincoln, something very unusual with Lincoln that I'm sure you don't know about, and something that also involves the Constitution, another very interesting anomaly in the Constitution. Cotton's going to be back for 3 adventures after that. Yeah, they're going to be a little bit domestic, a little bit foreign. I see him being around. I see his world continually to evolving. I see some things happening in that world. There's going to be some changes in the world. There's going to be some things happening. I think you're going to enjoy the next 4 books. I was waiting for the next question, but they're not coming. Everyone's bashful. There we go. Now, don't be bashful. Edie would love to see Cotton Malone books turned into movies. Yeah, that'd be great too. I'd love that too. I wish that would happen. We get a lot of interest, maybe a couple of dozen inquiries a year, but so far no actual contracts have been signed and nothing's been done. But certainly there's been a lot of talk. Some talk is getting a little more serious. We might see something, down the road possibly. But it's hard to say, with Hollywood, they move at their own pace. I'd always said of who would play Cotton, I've always envisioned him as a George Clooney kind of character as opposed to a Daniel Craig kind of character. So that's always that way I thought of him. Cassiopeia, she certainly, could be anyone. Halle Berry could play her. Angelina Jolie could play her. Any actress that has a little bit of that Middle Eastern flair to it, a little bit of that Moroccan look to it, a little bit of that feel to it. Any actress there could play. Has social media helped you connect with your readers? Yeah, sure it does. We use Facebook. That's the only one that we deal with. We have about 37,000 followers there, and it grows every day. And we do keep in touch with folks there. We let them know what's going on. We interact with them. So it has been good. And it's a reader fan page, so that's what it's for me to interact back and forth between them. And we try to keep content on there. When you're on there and you see a reply that says Steve says, that's really done by Esther, who works for me, and she does those. If it says that's me personally responding to it. I go on, I don't know, 3-4 times a month, and I'll do something on there. So anytime you see an I, it comes from me. But I do keep an eye on the page every, probably at least once a day. I check in on it, see what's going on, and I like to keep up with it and see what people are talking about. Somebody says Harrison Ford is Cotton Malone. He'd be perfect. The only problem is just a little old for Cotton now. Harrison Ford's up in his mid-60s. Cotton's 47. I guess he could play him, but there are probably some other actors who are a little younger who could probably do it and pull it off. Am I a fan of the Assassin's Creed games? No, I've never been a video game person, so I really don't have any familiarity with it. He says one is about the Revolutionary War and pirates, and of course that's what the Jefferson Key was about. Quentin Hale was my pirate in there. But of course, I did Pirates in the Jefferson Key as they really were. You're going to learn a lot about them there. If some of you haven't read that book, it's a really good story about a clause in the Constitution that will shock you that deals with pirates. Very interesting stuff. Do you think Henry VIII was a big child? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. He turned out to be a very big man. He was always a tall man, even as a youngster. He was well over 6 foot tall, so he was a very tall, strapping young man. And then into his 20s and 30s, as he aged into his mid-40s and then into his 50s, he died in his 50s. He became quite obese and overweight, and this came about after the injury to his leg, where he really couldn't exercise like he used to anymore. So I'm not sure he was a big child, but I know that he was a big man, yes. What advice would I give someone who's trying to write their first book? Is there a magic formula for brainstorming, outlining, and writing? Well, I've got some bad news for you. There is no magic formula. There is no easy way. There is no shortcut. There is only one way to learn how to write, and that is to write. You have to write every day. You have to study your craft. You have to study your genre, and you have to plow away at it every single solitary day. There is absolutely no easy way to do it. It is one of the most difficult endeavors you will ever encounter in your life. But here's the cool thing. It's an acquired skill that anybody can acquire. There's no magic to it. Anyone can acquire it if you want to acquire it. All you have to do is put your mind to it. But you have to write every day. So my advice to someone who wants to write their first book is to sit down and do it. That's what I did. I sat down and I did it. Took me a year, but I did it. It was the most horrible thing I've ever written in my life. It's the most horrible thing you would ever read in your life, but it is the most special thing that I will ever write because I started it and I finished it. And that's what the cool thing is, because 90% of all writers do not finish what they start. So my advice is sit down, write, learn your craft, learn your genre. Where does King's Deception rank in my favorite novels? Well, certainly it's right at the top right now because it's the one that's the most recent novel that's out there for people to read. A writer should always say that their most recent stuff is their best stuff. Now, for me, my absolute favorite is the one I just finished and turned in about an hour ago because that's the latest thing that I wrote. You see, a writer's craft should evolve with each thing you write. What you wrote today should be a little bit better than yesterday, and what you write tomorrow a little bit better than today. That's about all it ever gets. That's as good as it ever gets. And so, certainly when someone says, what's your favorite thing you've written or what's the best thing you've ever written, your answer should always be the latest thing, the last thing that I just wrote. If you're not answering it that way, then there's something wrong, something seriously wrong with your craft. If I was stranded on a desert island and I could take 3 books to read, what would they be? Well, that's a fascinating question. Um, I don't know. I have to think that through for a second here. Um, I probably would take a very large dictionary because it would be fascinating to study the English language and the words and their origins and what they mean and where they came from. So a very, very good dictionary would be fascinating to take along with you. Uh, I probably would take Hawaii by James Michener, which is my favorite book of all time, simply because it was the first fiction, adult fiction book I ever read when I was 15 years old, and it always holds a special place with me. And I'd like to have that there with me. For the third book, though, I don't really know what that would be. I'd have to think that through. It would probably have to be something of great substance that would sustain me, since it's the only 3 books I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So it needs to be something quite hearty, quite involved, probably nonfiction of some sort, perhaps a big, giant, thick volume of a history of the world. That might be a good one to take with me so I can have something to keep me occupied. What other genre would you like to take a crack at? Because I write international suspense thrillers. I love historical fiction. Pure historical fiction would be a lot of fun to write a book just set in the past, totally. I love historical fiction. I love Sharon K. Penman and Margaret George. I love those kinds of books there. But you know what? I have to say, science fiction is kind of interesting too. I've always had a little sci-fi novel kind of in my gut. I wouldn't mind doing a pure suspense thriller, something in the vein of Harlan Coben or Michael Connelly, which would be very interesting too. And I'd be a liar if I said I wouldn't mind taking a little crack at a fantasy novel. It'd be kind of interesting. I don't read the genre, but the genre interests me, and I'd love to have a little fun with it and take a crack at it. So I have a lot of interest to branch out. I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to do it, but it's fun to think about. What am I reading this summer? Well, unfortunately, I'm reading the nonfiction books, doing the research for the 2015 novel, which I have to start writing very shortly because it takes me a year to write it. So I'll be writing it for the next year, turning it in next year. So I've been reading a whole bunch of books in that subject matter. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you what that subject matter is. It'll give away the book, but that's really what I've been reading. I have read, though, I did read Inferno by Dan Brown. I'm reading Jim Rollins' new book right now, The Eye of God. And I'm also reading a nonfiction book called The Plantagenets, which is about the ruling family of England in the early parts of the 11th, 12th, and 13th century, which is very interesting. So those are the books I'm reading for fun, but I'm reading those other ones for work. Do I research many topics before selecting one for a book? Yeah, I do. I do go through quite a few. Some of which, well, I should say most of which don't pan out. They don't really work. Ones that do, I start focusing on. I usually only stay one idea ahead. That's usually the best I've ever been. But right now, I'm actually 4 ideas ahead. I got this little idea burst a few months ago, and I came up with 4 ideas that actually panned out and worked. And so I do have the next 4 novels set and ready to go in my head, so I can put those together and do, which is very unusual for me. So I'm actually doing the research on all 4 of those kind of simultaneously, and it's really nice because I might actually get a little ahead of myself, which I haven't been in a while. What type of wine is in the fridge? Good question. I don't know. That's Elizabeth's wine back there. Let's see what it is. It's a New Zealand wine that she got. She likes wine. That's hers. I don't drink particularly, but she does. So she keeps it there in my little fridge here in this office. It's I guess you would call it a beer fridge, but for me, it has lemonade and soft drinks in it, and she sneaks her wine in there occasionally. When are we coming to Baltimore for the workshop for the Battle of Baltimore? Well, again, it's all going to depend on whether we can get a group up there a recognized historical group who can sit down and put this thing together and assemble it. We'd love to come. We'd love to be a part of it. We want to do it. The Bob who sent the question in has won our contest about a couple of years ago, and we owe him an event up there in Baltimore, and we intend to come to do it. But I got to get a group, Bob. You got to get me an historical society or someone involved in this who can put this together. Because see, I don't run any money through me. I don't touch money. That money goes. The money that we'll raise for that event all runs through that group. It all has to be through a proper channels. So you can find us that historical group up there. We can see what we can do in coming up there and doing that. What are my political views? Well, I'm not going there now. I write novels, so I just like to entertain people to do. Any comments on the NSC Eric Stoughton debacle? It's really interesting, and I think it's going to sneak its way into one of my books in the coming years. There's some interesting aspects to that. It's fascinating to me, and so you might see a little of that sneaking in to the novels. I'm sure you're going to see it sneaking into a lot of thrillers. But there's an aspect of it that kind of intrigued me, and I think I'm going to work it into the 2015 plot. So it's very, very interesting what they're doing. How do I find the secrets that become the center of the novels? Well, you have to stumble onto them, really. You come across them. Like this one in The King's Deception. I'm sitting there taking a tour, and the lady tells me about what happens in the village of Bisley for 300 years. I begin to look at it further, and I find out that Bram Stoker wrote about it in the early part of the 20th century in a book called Famous Impostors. I get the book, I read it, I get intrigued, I start looking at it, there's a novel there. The same things happened before with the Alexandria link, where someone told me about the theory that Kamal Salibi had come up with. I've come across these ideas in books, sometimes in events, sometimes just hearing things, sometimes watching television. You never know where these ideas will pop up. You just have to be ready when they do and ready to grab on them. Will all 4 ideas be Cotton Malone book? Yes, all 4 of those ideas that I told you about will be a Cotton Malone book. He's going to be around for the next 4, and like I said, you're going to see some interesting things in his world. So yeah, Cotton's not going anywhere. He just took that 1 year vacation, but now he's back to work. The nice Ossian New Zealand wines are great. I don't know. I don't drink, so I don't know, but Elizabeth seems to like them quite a bit. I just never acquired a taste for alcohol. It was just something when I was a young man. I never acquired it, so I just never liked the taste of it. But she seems to enjoy it. Did I get lots of flack about my theory about it? Not really, not at all. I've received almost no flack, to be honest with you, because the historical basis of this thing has some great merit to it. I mean, you know, all her life Elizabeth wore wigs. All her life she wore heavy face paint. All her life she wore clothes that didn't flatter her body. She refused to allow doctors to examine her. When she dies, she leaves orders that she's not to be autopsied or examined in any way, her body sealed away, and it was. Her number one duty as queen is to have an heir, but she refuses to marry, refuses to have a child, calls herself the Virgin Queen. Then when she dies, they bury her and her sister Mary in the same grave so their bones will mingle together. And it actually says that on the tomb. Now, if that isn't suspicious, if there's not something going on there, then you're going to have to explain to me what all that adds up to. And I've yet to have any historian or anyone tell me that I'm completely insane here. There's a lot about Elizabeth that's very odd that can be easily explained by the fact that she wasn't what she appeared to be. So, and again, I'm not saying this is real or true. I'm just saying it's kind of fun and interesting. And so far, I haven't had any real blowback on it. Do you think you've stimulated the Brits to consider digging up her bones? Well, that's an interesting question because that's how you could prove or disprove this thing. Elizabeth's tomb has been sealed for 400 years. It's the only royal tomb that's never been breached. No one's gone inside this tomb. So we have no idea really what's in there. Not even during the English Civil War when there was tombs desecrated all over the country. They did not desecrate this tomb. So it would be very fascinating to go in there. Certainly there'd be a 40-year-old woman in there who's married. Would there be a 70-year-old woman whose DNA from the father's side matches the 40-year-old? Or is there a 70-year-old male skeleton? Or is there a 13-year-old skeleton? We don't know the answer to that question, but it would be interesting. When I was over there, the Daily Mail, which is the largest newspaper in England, caught on to this and did a big 2-page spread. And the headline was, "Author calls for opening up Elizabeth's tomb," which I thought was really great. Helped generate some interest in the book and everything, but I'm sure the royal family didn't appreciate it too much. And I doubt very seriously if that tomb will ever be opened, because on the off chance that there's not a 70-year-old female skeleton in there that matches the DNA of the male of Mary's skeleton, because if there's not, then you've got big trouble in Northern Ireland. Is there anyone you love from history you really want to write about? Ever consider Mark Twain? Actually, I did consider Mark Twain because I did an event, a History Matters event, at the Twain House last year with Bob Stein and Sandra Brown. And I've toured that house a couple of times, and I'd love to do something with Twain, but I haven't found anything intriguing yet, anything interesting, any great secret one way or the other that I can make work with it. There are lots of folks from history that draw interest for me. Particularly some monarchs and some folks. I don't want to really talk about them or say them because I don't want people to preempt them and try to grab them. I have to be a little careful of that now, which is kind of interesting. I never had to worry about that before, but I do now. But there are some folks from history that greatly interest me and I want to explore, and I actually am going to explore some of those in the next 4 books. What advice would you give a beginning author who has limited financial resources to travel and research? You don't have to travel and research anything. You don't have to go to anywhere to do to write your novels. Not at all. You can sit right at home and you can write every book you have right there. You never have to set foot out of that locale. The only reason I go is because of a direct interest to go and find some specific things. But you don't have to do that. There's no requirement. Here's the cool thing about learning how to write. It doesn't take 1 cent to learn how to write. It doesn't take 1 dime to learn how to write. You don't have to spend a penny to learn how to write. All you have to do is sit yourself down every day, sit down and write every single day. Then you have to read your genre, study your craft, do what you've got to do, and teach yourself the craft of writing. It does not require money. It requires discipline and determination. When you mention that you use photographs on your books, will you ever make albums on Facebook for each book. Well, we did this for a while. If you go to my website, steveberry.org, up until about 3 books ago, we did do this. There's a, if you'll go to each book's home page, some of them have a photo section, and we did that. I stopped doing it because it was so hard to assemble them all, but I've been regretting that, and I've been meaning to go back and start creating some of those again. So you might see us start them again, but you certainly can find them for the first 5 or 6 novels, or maybe even 7 novels where we did it. And a lot of those photographs on there are photographs that I took while there. So you might see us do it because I really enjoyed that. And now the technology is such that it's not as hard to do it as it was back then. It's much simpler to assemble those pages. So I may very well go back and add those. Tim Cook says this is fun, and it's a first for him. This is, I think, the 3rd time I've done this. I think I was the very first one they ever did it on. I'm not sure. If I wasn't the first, I was close to being the first. I noticed the technology has changed a lot. It's a lot simpler to keep up with things. And in those days, the question wasn't right below the screen where I can see it. It was way over here, and I had to go back and forth to keep up with it. But everything's a lot cleaner and smoother now to do. It's certainly a lot easier to interact. So I enjoy this too. You really are looking at the future. This is what you're going to see more and more and more and more of this, as it makes greater sense where writers can connect with their fans at a more direct level and never leave their house. Everybody's coming in saying they think it's fun. What are my feelings on Canadians? I like Canadians. They're cool. I mean, I've been up there several times. I haven't been back up for a signing because the Canadian publisher just hasn't had me back up there. So maybe you ought to contact Random House up there and send some emails and tell them you'd like to see me come. They have to invite me and get me up there. We've been up there a couple of times and done some signings and some PR events. I'd love to come back just anytime. I've heard the idea of replacing a monarch with an imposter is nothing new in English history. Are there any other examples? Well, there were some discussions of some kings being, I don't know about imposters with the kings, but certainly pretenders. Folks who took the actual person who was more entitled to the throne and kept him away. Certainly murder has been used to eliminate pretenders. The most infamous of all would have been Richard III, who killed his brother Edward's 2 sons in order to keep his path to the throne clear. But it's happened with other monarchs as well in English history. I don't know of any other aspect of English history where the monarch was an actual imposter. I don't know of it. Someone out there may know something I don't know of that, but it doesn't come to mind right now. This Bisley Boy legend dealing with Elizabeth is the only one I've ever heard of it, and it's the most fascinating and to me the most plausible that could very well be true. 30 minutes left, what they're saying, so ask your questions, make your comments, bring them in. We've got another half hour, and then we're going to have a drawing to see who wins copies of The King's Deception. Will I be introducing any new characters in upcoming books? Well, yes, we will. Next year, you're going to meet a brand new character who I fleshed out, and I think you'll be able to see a return for that character. I enjoyed creating him. He was a lot of fun. I think you will probably see another character or 2 coming down the road. So, yeah, there are going to be some changes in Cotton's world, some additions, some subtractions, some all kinds of things are going to happen. And that's what keeps the books fun. You don't ever want them to be predictable. The thing about writing a series is every book in the series has to be the same but different. The same but different. Very tough to achieve, but that's what you have to strive for. So I try to keep them lively and entertaining, but also with enough familiarity that you keep coming back. What is my writing schedule like? Well, I write each day, as I just told everyone else you need to do. I do 5 days a week. I start around 6:30 in the morning. I write till about 11. I take an hour off. I write a little after lunch, and then I deal with the business of writing for a while. Then I do a little bit of stuff to clean my head out around the house, play golf or something. Then I do a little research before I go to bed, start all over the next morning. So that's my schedule that I maintain during the 10, 11 months that I'm actually writing and putting words down on the page. And I'll start that schedule back August 1. Right now, I've been on tour. I finished up. I've got to go to Thriller Fest in a week, next week, and then we do our vacation with our children after that. So July is a month where I don't really do a whole lot of writing. I'll start back August the 1st. I stay on that schedule solid, and by next spring, I should have the book finished and done. And I have to do a book a year, so I do a book every year. Now, while I'm writing the next book, I'm researching and getting ready for the book after, and I'm conceptualizing the book after that. So at all times, there are 3 books in my brain. As of up until about an hour ago, there were 4 in my brain because I had to finish up the edits for next year's book. Those are now done, so that one's kind of purged out. And now I'm writing 15, researching and outlining 16, and conceptualizing 17. And if I stick to that, I can keep to my book a year schedule. Can I tell us more about your History Matters project? Yeah, History Matters is a foundation my wife Elizabeth and I created about 4 years ago. And we go around the country and we raise money for historic preservation projects. And we do that mainly through our writers' workshops that we teach all over the country. And we've taught around 2,000 people at these workshops where we teach the craft of writing. And you buy your way in with a contribution, and all of that money goes to the project we're there to support. As I mentioned to Bob in Baltimore a little while ago, that's why we have to have a sponsoring committee, because they set it up, they put it together, they collect the money, they make all that happen. We just show up and do it and do the event. We also do meet and greets, dinners, lunches, whatever it takes for them to use me to raise money for. And we've raised around $600,000 for historic projects all over the country. We have 2 more coming up later this year, one in Albany, New York, and one in New Jersey. They're up on my website at steveberry.org. You can find out about them. I'll actually be teaching a writer's workshop in New Jersey. So if you're in that area, you might want to register for that and come. It's a very intense 3-4 hour course on the craft of writing, and it's good for anyone, fiction, nonfiction, published, non-published. I don't care what it is. Craft is craft. And we'll keep doing these. We do around 6 to 8 History Matters projects a year. If you have one in your community, if you have an organization and you think you might need our help, go to the website, steveberry.org, click on History Matters, and send us an email, and we'll get in touch with you. Any new locations for future novels? Well, Cotton never go to Hawaii. Actually, he might go to Hawaii. Actually, he just might. Yes, he will. I have a tale I want to do with Hawaii, something very interesting. The Polynesians have always fascinated me, and so you might just see Cotton coming headed that way. Yes. Future novels, locations, certainly some more American locations are going to come into play. I would love to send him to South America. He's not been there yet. I'd love to send him to Africa. Not been there yet either. Australia and New Zealand, definitely in the mix as well. Is that where you write? Can you show us any trinkets? Well, this is not where I write all the time. This is a place that we have south of our house where we come down. It's down at the beach. So we come down here quite a bit. And this is the rain. Let's see if I can show you a little bit. If I can angle up, you can see there behind me. You can see the map. See the map right there? That is a map of Elizabeth and I's travels. There's little red dots, little red pins in there of every place we've been. That was given to me by Random House a few years ago as a gift. And I keep it here. Above that is a drawing of Cologne, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. And then, of course, you see the Templar. And I got that at Rennes-le-Chateau. This is just where I work in here. It's just my little office that we have here at the condo, and I do a lot of work here. I've written 5 novels. I've worked on 5 novels here. I do a lot of work. I do an enormous amount of plotting out on the beach. I call that my office. In fact, when we're done here, I'll be headed out there, and I'll walk up and down that beach for a couple of hours. I actually got the So What, the thing about Northern Ireland for the King's Deception, walking on the beach out there about a year ago. So this is a very inspirational place to me. It's the way I come to clean my head out. We've been on the road for 3 weeks. 3 solid weeks, getting up at 4 in the morning and going to about 11 o'clock at night for about 20 days straight. So we were both a little tired. So we came down here to recharge and rest before Thriller Fest next week, because that's going to be a busy week in New York. I was going to see if he had. I do have this little trinket. This is my 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 Megalodon Truck tooth that I have that I really like. It's one of my prized possessions that I hold on to. I really like that. And my other, there's not many other trinkets around here that I keep here. Most of those are at my office at home. Can you tell us a little bit about Thriller Fest? Well, Thriller Fest is the gathering of the thriller genre. International Thriller Writers is a group of 2,000 thriller writers from around the world, and I was one of the founding members. I served as co-president for 3 years. Elizabeth is now the executive director of Thriller Fest, of ITW. She runs all of ITW. She ran Thriller Fest for 5 years, and they promoted her now, and she now runs the entire organization. We gather in New York at the Grand Hyatt, and it's next week. We'll start on Wednesday, go to Saturday. It's open to the public. You're welcome to come and register. You can go to thrillerfest.com and find out all about it. Those of you up in that area can get day passes and come for the day. On Wednesday is Craft Fest. I'll be teaching that morning a 2-hour session on story structure, point of view, and dialogue. Those of you up in that area who want to attend that, you can register for that day and come. Thursday is Agent Fest. Those of you who have completed manuscripts, we have 65 or so agents in the room. You get 3 minutes with them, and it's over several hours, so you can end up speaking to about 15 or 20 agents that you can pitch to directly. And this is just about everybody in the business is there, agent-wise, because we're right there in New York. Friday is sessions and seminars. Saturday, more seminars. Saturday night is the banquet where our Thriller Awards, where everyone in the business is there. So if you're interested, come. We get more and more fans every year. This year, we'll probably have 300 plus fans there. And you'll have some of the best writers in the world are there. You can hang out with and talk to. Thriller writers are the easiest people in the world to get along with. And it all happens at the Grand Hyatt starting next Wednesday. But as I said, go to thrillerfest.com if you want to find out more about it. Yes, if a small town historical organization submit a request for you to come, would it be possible? Of course, we get. That's exactly who makes the request. I can't tell you how many local historical societies. We just did one in Cleveland with the out in a suburb of Cleveland called Medina. The local historical society there had us out there, and we were out there with the Friends of the Library. We did a joint event for them where they raised money. We do a lot of events with local historical society. In fact, that's the #1 group that we work with. So if you get a local historical society who has a project, send us an email. We'll see if we can work it in, and we can see what we can do with it. Some of them work, some of them don't. We have to look at it and see, and we have to see what we can do. I will say this, we try to make everyone work that we can because we know it's tough, and we want to try to help out everybody we can. Do you have any fans who go too far? I don't know what you mean by too far, meaning do they get a little crazy? No, I haven't had that problem. We get some kind of wacky emails sometimes from some people who are obviously kind of out there, but that's about the extent of it. I've never had any disrespectful or disruptive or intrusive fan at all. You know, the cool thing about being a writer is no one really recognizes you. I mean, I have literally sat on an airplane and a guy 1 foot away from me, right across the aisle, is reading my book with a big color picture of me on the back held up where everyone can see it, and not a single person connected me with that picture. And that's kind of cool, really. I like that. I like that anonymity. I enjoy that part. So writers get to write the books and to get to interact with everyone and get to kind of be known, but we're not really recognized that much. So I've never had any trouble. Another thing, by the way, with Thriller Fest that's kind of cool this year with fans is on Friday night we have something called Fan Fest. And what happened was writers paid to have the right to bring 12 fans that night. And I did that, and 12 of my fans will be coming. We did a contest on Facebook, and 12 of my fans will be coming that night, and they'll get to meet and interact and do it. It's just a really kind of one-on-one thing, and there'll be about, I don't know, 200-300 fans there from various writers. If you're registered for Thriller Fest, you can come to Fan Fest as well to do. But this is something special we're doing this year just for the fans, and so I've got 12 of my fans coming, and I'm looking forward to meeting each one of them. Do I read reviews, and how important are they? Do they shape my novels? Well, I'd be a liar to say that I don't read reviews. And any writer who says they never read them is not telling you the truth. We all read them. You can't help it. It's human nature. You want to see what people think about what you've done. Now, what do you do about it is different for each writer. Most of the times you do nothing. I mean, I just read them. Sometimes they get under my skin a little bit, particularly when someone's just spouting off. They clearly haven't really even read the book. And even worse, they actually like the book, but they just want to hear themselves talk and say how awful it is to do. Yes, that's irritating. Yes, it is. But it's part of the game. You have to have a lizard skin. Now, occasionally you'll get a criticism that you will hear over and over and over and over and over again. One of the ones I heard for many years where people said, you know, you're bouncing around between those points of view, and it's a little difficult to keep up with sometimes because we don't read the book in long sittings. We read a little bit, then we wait, and we read a little bit, and we wait. And I do that. I read a book the same way, and that was a valid criticism. So what I did, starting with Jefferson Key, is I began to tighten the plotting up a little bit, where the characters were a little more interacting with each other, and it was easier to keep up with what they were doing and where they were. And I've been doing that ever since. So that was a valid criticism that I took heart and made some changes on. Now, you got to remember something about writing. No writer ever got better by being told how great they are. So there's nothing wrong with criticism as long as it's good, valid, and constructive. But when you get the silly stuff and people who clearly have not even read the book and people who just want to hear themselves talk, you know, you just sort of have to slough it off and be done with it and let it go. But by and large, you know, I like the feedback. I like reading it. I was taught in the critical process, and I don't mind it at all. What's the question I tend to ask a lot? Well, the number one question that every writer gets asked, it's the number one question all writers get asked, is where do your ideas come from? That's the number one question that you get asked. So they do it, and I've started having this answer. This is kind of the answer I give now. I tell them, I said, look, I want to tell you something, and I don't want you to tell anybody. Please, you got to keep this secret. And I only learned this after I got published the first time, because the first time to get the idea was really hard. The second time was pretty simple, because once you get published, I get this little password, and you go to this website. It's called ideasforwriters.com, and you go onto that website, you type in your password, you type in kind of what you want to write about, just general stuff. You hit a button. About 2 hours later, they send you back. You got the idea for the novel. The whole thing's just laid out, and that's really how we all get them. It's really cool, and it makes it so much easier that way. Now, you'll be surprised how many people actually believe that and actually think I'm being serious with it. But I'm kind of dramatizing how difficult it is. It would be lovely to be able to do that and get those kind of ideas, but it just doesn't work like that. The ideas come slowly, and they come very difficult, and you have to work on them all the time. Like I said, I'm very lucky that I have 4 right now, which is a first for me. When visiting England, did I pick up a British accent? No, I wasn't there long enough for that. I'm afraid you got to stay there a lot longer. And as you can hear me talk, I would get a very southern British accent, I think, too. I'd be from southern England if I ever did pick it up. This reader loves historical fiction, but has never read any of my books. Where do you suggest I start? Well, that's the cool thing. You can start wherever you like. I write them where you can go in and out of the series. Now, Amber Room, Romanoff Prophecy, Third Secret, and Columbus Affair are standalones. So they're all by themselves. Read them however. Templar Legacy begins the Cotton Malone series, and then there's 7 books after that, coming up now to The King's Deception, which is the eighth Cotton Malone book. I write the Cotton Malone novels where you can go in and out. You do not have to read them in order. If you did, you might recognize a couple of things. If you don't, you would never notice. I've actually had people read the books backwards. It's been no problem for them whatsoever. So pick one. I think you ought to start with King's Deception. I think it'd be a perfect place to start. I think you'll enjoy it. If you like it, you can try some more. You ever get stressed out with deadlines? Actually, I don't. I have a very good discipline. I was taught that early on in Catholic school by the nuns. I set goals for myself. I stick to the goals. I have always turned a book in at least a month in advance, usually 2 months in advance is where it is. I've never even come close to a deadline, to be honest with you. I don't think I've come within 30 days of a deadline ever to do. Now, occasionally deadlines get shifted and changed because we change what we're writing about, we change the order of the books and things like that, and that messes everything up. But everyone understands we have to adjust the deadline because of that. So no, I don't ever get stressed out about them at all. I stick to them. I understand a deadline. I understand someone needs something by a certain day. As long as we sit down and plan that out in the beginning and we all know what it is and we all work from it, great. What I don't like is someone coming in at the last minute and telling me a new deadline or changing the rules or modifying something with no notice to anything. That is a bit of a problem. I never had that happen with me in books, but I did have it happen in the law all the time. I'm very fortunate. My editor is very organized and he's very detailed and he keeps up with it, and we all stick to a very good schedule that we actually lay out about a year in advance. Would I consider using more recent history as a centerpiece in every? Yes, I would consider doing that, and I am going to do that. Something from the 20th century, something more recent. Yes, I've been interested in that, and I have something I want to deal with that. So you'll see that in the years ahead, yes. We only have a few minutes left, and then we're going to announce the winners of the book. So you've got a few more questions, fire away. I'm here before I head out to the beach. Do you do any physical research, use of weapons or anything like that? No, I have to tell you something. I've never fired a gun in my life. I probably need to. I probably need to see what it feels like, but I've actually never fired a weapon before. So I've never done any of that. I just experience it vicariously. I've never really done anything. My good friend David Morrell, he went to bodyguard training. He actually dislocated his shoulder at the bodyguard training. We have to be a little careful about these kinds of things. But I've never really gotten that deep into it. No, it would be kind of interesting to do, but it's never really happened. Have I won awards? Yes, I actually have won some awards, which is quite interesting. I've only won like one award in my life. The Georgia Writers Association gave me their Author of the Year award about 8 years ago. It's the only award I ever won in my life, and then all at once in the last few months, I've won 3 awards. The Poets and Writers magazine gave me the Barnes & Noble Writers for Writers Award in March for the History Matters work we do. And then the Anne Frank Foundation here in America gave me the Anne Frank Human Rights with a W award for the Columbus Affair, which is a book that epitomizes the spirit of Anne Frank. And then next week at Thriller Fest, I'm going to be given the Silver Bullet Award, which is the award the thriller writers give for philanthropic work, which is kind of cool. When I was president of ITW years ago, I helped create that award. I was there the day we created it. I never dreamed that I would ever win such a thing, but they called up a few months ago and said they were going to give it to me. So I've actually won 3 awards in the last few months. It's really kind of humbling and an honor to happen. How was Cotton born? Cotton was born one evening in Copenhagen. I was sitting in Hydro Plots, which is a square there. I was in the Café Nordon on the 2nd floor. There's actually a picture of me doing that on the new website. If you go to steveberry.org, go to the photos section, scroll through, you will see a picture of that exact spot. I was sitting there and he came to me and he was born. And I said, he's going to live right here. He's going to be a retired Justice Department agent. He's going to live in Copenhagen. He's going to own an old bookshop, and this is going to be his home. And that's where it happened. And I went back home and I wrote The Templar Legacy. And that trip was always very special to me, by the way, because it was on that trip in 2002 when I learned that the Amber Room had been bought for publication by Ballantine Books. I got the fax from my agent saying they had bought it. After 12 years and 85 rejections, I had finally sold a book. So a lot happened during that trip to Copenhagen. It's one reason why Copenhagen remains one of my favorite places in the world. Do I have a favorite book to movie adaptation? I really like the way they adapted The Client, Grisham's 3rd novel. That was a really good adaptation. Tommy Lee Jones was good in that movie, and I enjoyed the way they did that. That's one of the few times I would say the movie was actually a little bit better than the book. They really brought that to alive real well. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say this, and I really mean it. I really like Tom Cruise, what he did with Jack Reacher. I enjoyed that movie very much. I thought it was well done. It was very entertaining. You know, it was just, I thought he nailed the character perfectly, and I bought into it completely. I left the theater that day saying that was really, really good. So that's another one that I really enjoy. Do I listen to music when I write? Yes, I do. I usually find music from the country or the period that I'm writing about. When I wrote King's Deception, when I was in England, I bought some Tudor music. I had a bunch of Tudor music. I bought it at Hampton Court, and I played it over and over again, that Tudor music to do. It's just a little habit that I've done. When I wrote Emperor's Tomb, I had Chinese music, which was very, very interesting. Asian music that I had. Venetian Betrayal, I had a lot of Italian music I was listening to. I picked that period and I sort of listened to it. So it's sort of a little habit that I've come into, yes. If we want to contact you further, what's the best way of reaching me? The easiest way, the fastest way is to go to the website, steveberry.org. Send an email. I read every one of those. I don't answer them all. Jessica answers them for me. I answer some, but I do read every one of those. So if you want to get in touch with me, that's the fastest way. If you click on the History Matters one, there's a History Matters email in there. You can send it. That comes straight to us as well. We love to hear from you. We get 30, 40 a day, and we answer every one of them. What do I have up? What I have coming up for philanthropic events? Just those two I mentioned. I have the one in New Jersey and the one in Albany, New York, which are scheduled for October of this year. You can go to the website, steveberry.org, under events, find out all about them. Ask again, what am I reading right now? As I said, I'm reading the history books for the next novel, and I'm reading Jim Rollins' Eye of God. That's the one I'm reading novel-wise right now, and I'll take it with me when we go to New York next week. I always read Jim's books every time they come out. He's one of the guys I read all the time. How can I get an autographed copy? We do it a couple of ways. Before the book comes out next year, we will open back up on our page, and you can order through the Bookmark, which is a local independent bookstore in my area. You can order a personalized book, and it will be sent to you on release day next year, which will be May of 2014, and I will personalize it for you however you want. Autographed books, I know that the Bookmark in Neptune Beach has some. So you can go to their website. You'll have to look it up. I don't know. It's the Bookmark in Neptune Beach, Florida. They have some signed books. But if you want to send me the signed book to sign and send back, we'll be glad to do it for you. Just send us an email through the website, and Jessica will show you how to do that. What are we doing for 4th of July? We're going to be here at the beach and probably just sit out, cook out, enjoy ourselves, and get some rest, because starting next Monday, it's going to be 7 intense days of hard work again from morning to night. So these are rest days. I want to thank everyone. This has been great for submitting your questions. Let's announce the winners. Here are the official winners of the King's Deception books. We have selected them, and here they are. Jacqueline Haggerty, Tim Cook, Lazy Day Reviews, Edie Motley Walworth, and Pam Stanton Burrell. Congratulations to you all. You'll be getting that signed book, and I hope you enjoy it. And when you read it, let me know. Send me an email and tell me what you think. I appreciate being here.